I remember that afternoon so clearly, like a scene from a movie that never got edited out, even though I wish it had. The house was quiet, not the kind of quiet that makes you feel peaceful, but the kind that makes you notice every small sound. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking clock in the hallway, the faint rush of cars passing outside. Sunlight was spilling through the blinds, cutting the kitchen in these sharp, pale stripes. I was sitting at the table, scrolling through my phone, not really looking at anything. That's when she came in. My wife, holding a bowl. Fresh chicken salad, said, smiling just enough for it to count, but not enough for me to feel it. She set it down in front of me, the ceramic bowl, making that soft clink against the wood, and for a second I just looked at it. It was supposed to be lunch. Something about the whole setup felt almost too normal. I didn't think much of it at first, but then I caught it. That smell had hit me in the space between breaths, sour, just enough to make the hairs at the back of my neck lift. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe it was the onion. Maybe it was my imagination. But the smell lingered. I remember picking up my fork slowly, like I was buying myself time. The metal felt cool in my hand. I swirled it through the salad, pushing a chunk of chicken around, pretending I was distracted. She was watching me in that casual way people watch without wanting to look like they're watching, and I felt this. A little flicker in my gut. Not full-on alarm, not yet. More like the way you feel when you're walking down the stairs and you think there's one more step. But there isn't. That moment where your body knows something's off, even if your brain hasn't caught up yet. I could still hear the hum of the refrigerator behind me. The sunlight looked warmer than it felt, and that bowl just sat there. If you asked me to describe the exact moment my unease began, it was right then. Not because of the smell alone, but because of how it made everything else suddenly feel different. I kept my eyes on the fork like it was the most important thing in the room. It hovered over the bowl. It's just inches from my mouth. The smell was stronger now that the salad was closer, that faint sourness wrapping itself around the scent of mayo and herbs. Like something trying to hide under a blanket but not doing a very good job of it. I thought about all the times I'd eaten her cooking without a second thought. Sunday dinners where the house smelled like roasted garlic and thyme. That one Thanksgiving, she insisted on doing everything herself, running around the kitchen in socks, hair a mess, laughing when she spilled cranberry sauce on her shirt. But this didn't feel like that. Something in me tightened. Not my stomach. Not exactly. More like a knot in the back of my mind, pulling tighter with every breath. I stalled. I stabbed a piece of chicken, twirled it in the dressing, let it fall. Back into the bowl. Smells different, I said, trying to sound casual. She didn't answer right away, just shrugged, eyes flicking toward the sink for half a second before meeting mine again. And maybe that's what did it. That tiny look away, that pause. That didn't need to be there. I gave a little laugh, the kind you give when you're pretending you're not suspicious. Did you get this from the New Deli? No, made it this morning. I nodded slowly, took a sip of water instead. The glass was cold against my lips, condensation dripping onto my hand. I kept thinking, why does it smell like this? And then, for some reason I couldn't explain, I found myself scanning her face like I was looking for something I wasn't supposed to see. It's funny. People think suspicion comes in big waves, like a dramatic movie moment where the music swells and you realize the truth all at once. But for me, it was a drip. A slow, steady drip of little things that didn't add up. The fork was still in my hand, but the bite never came. And in that tiny, silent standoff between me and the chicken salad, something in me had already shifted. I wasn't just hesitating anymore. I was listening, and I didn't like what I was hearing. It's amazing how quickly your brain can turn against you. One minute, you're sitting there telling yourself you're overthinking. The next, you're cataloging every single detail like you're about to testify in court. The smell. The way she set the bowl down and stepped back. That tiny pause when I asked where it came from, even the way her hands were resting on the counter. Palms flat, fingers spread like she was bracing for something. I looked down at the salad again. The chicken was pale, the dressing clinging to it in heavy white streaks. It looked normal enough, but up close, I swear I could see a faint grayish tinge around the edges. I shifted in my chair. My knee brushed against the table leg, making the silverware rattle. She didn't flinch. She kept watching me, that small, fixed smile still there. I took another sip of water, mostly to buy time. My throat felt dry anyway. Maybe it's fine, I told myself. Maybe it's just from being in the fridge too long. Maybe it's just me. But then another thought pushed in, sharp and unwanted. Or maybe it's not. That's when I noticed her phone on the counter, screen face down. How normally? She left it around without caring. But something about the way it sat, they're close enough to grab, far enough to not look like it mattered, made my chest feel tight. I caught myself sniffing the salad when she turned her back to get a napkin. The smell wasn't faint anymore. It was there, sour, old, like something just on the edge of turning bad. Everything okay? She asked without looking at me. Double quotes, yeah, I said. Right. Too quickly it's weird, I wasn't panicking. Exactly. More like my senses had gone on high alert. Every sound was sharper. The hum of the refrigerator felt louder. I could hear the faint ticking of the kitchen clock. Each second, a little hammer hitting my nerves. And in that moment, I realized I didn't trust the food in front of me. And worse, I wasn't sure I trusted the person who made it. I don't. Remember making the decision to call. It was like my body got there before my mind caught up. 1 second, I was sitting at the table, staring at the salad like it might blink first. The next, I was standing in the hallway, phone in my hand, thumb, pressing the numbers. 911. What's your emergency? The operator's voice was calm, practiced. My own voice wasn't. I was trying to sound normal, steady. I think my wife might have given me spoiled food. Even saying it out loud felt absurd. My words hung in the air like something I could grab back and swallow. But there was no taking it back now. Behind me in the kitchen, I could hear the faint clink of her fork hitting the plate. She was still there, still waiting, still listening. The operator started asking questions. My name, my address, my condition. Are you feeling sick? Have you swallowed any? No, I said, my voice lower now. I didn't eat it. I just smelled it. It's bad. It's really bad. I could feel the pulse in my neck, fast and heavy. My free hand was pressed flat against the wall, grounding myself. Then came the question I didn't want to answer. Do you believe your wife gave it to you intentionally? My mouth opened, but nothing came out for a few seconds. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. I don't know, I said finally. And that was the truth. I didn't know. But the fact that I didn't know was bad enough. That's when I heard it. The sound of the chair legs scraping against the floor. Slow, deliberate. She was coming closer. I turned, phone still to my ear. She was standing in the doorway now, eyes fixed on me. Not angry, not confused, just unreadable. The operator's voice kept coming through, telling me to stay on the line. Help was on the way. But all I could think was how small the kitchen suddenly seemed. How loud my breathing was. How I couldn't stop staring at her hands. It wasn't just a call anymore. It was a line drawn in the sand, and I had just crossed it. She didn't say a word at first. Just stood there in the doorway, the sunlight from the blinds slicing across her face in uneven stripes. Her hands were hanging at her sides, limp, like she'd forgotten what to do with them. And then something in her cracked. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't anger. It was this sudden, gasping sob, the kind that punches its way out of your chest before you can stop it. She pressed a hand to her mouth, but the sound kept coming. Her shoulders shook, her knees bent like they couldn't hold her up anymore. It was as if she'd been holding her breath for days and suddenly couldn't anymore. I froze. Phone still pressed to my ear. Operator still talking, but their voice felt far away, muffled, like it was coming from another room. Part of me wanted to go to her, to put my hand on her shoulder and ask what was wrong. That's the instinct you have when someone you love is crying like that. But another part, the part that had smelled that sour chicken and seen the way she avoided my eyes, kept me rooted to the floor. She stumbled toward a chair, sat down hard, and bent forward with her hands over her face. Between sobs, her words came out in jagged pieces. I didn't mean I thought I just... None of it made sense yet. But the guilt, or maybe fear, was pouring out of her faster than the words could keep up. I glanced toward the bowl still sitting on the table. The sunlight had shifted, and now it looked worse, like even the light didn't want to touch it. The operator's voice came sharp into my ear again. "Sir, is everything okay? Is she approaching you?" I turned away from her, lowering my voice. "She's crying." "A lot." There was a pause on the line then. "Help is almost there. Please stay on the phone." She looked up at me then, eyes red and wet, her mascara smudged into faint shadows beneath them. "I'm sorry," she whispered. And in that moment I realized I wasn't ready to hear whatever came next. I didn't mean to drift back, but that's how memories work. They slip in through the cracks when you're standing still. The last time I remember trusting her cooking completely was months ago. A Tuesday night, late. I'd just come home from work, tired, enough that even my shoes felt heavy. The house was dark, except for the glow from the kitchen. She was there, humming to herself, stirring something in a pot. The smell hit me before I even dropped my bag, warm, savory, with a hint of something sweet underneath. She turned, ladle in hand, smiling like she'd been waiting all night just to see my face. "You're just in time," she said. I remember sliding into the chair, watching steam curl up from the soup she set in front of me. I didn't even ask what was in it. Didn't need to. Back then, I believed in her cooking like you believe. In muscle memory, automatic, unquestioned. I took a bite. Hot, comforting, exactly what I needed after the day I'd had. If there was anything off about it, I didn't notice. Or maybe I did, but brushed it off without a second thought. Now, standing here in this kitchen months later, that memory feels different. It's like watching a home video and spotting something in the background you never saw before. A shadow. Where there shouldn't be one. I think about that soup more than I should. How quickly I ate it. How easily trust can hide the taste of something that's not quite right. And I wonder, was that night just dinner? Or was it the first time she put something in front of me that I shouldn't have eaten? The idea makes my stomach turn, but not from hunger. I look back at her now, sitting in the kitchen with her face buried in her hands, sobbing into her palms. The smell of the chicken salad still hangs in the air, stubborn and sour, like it's refusing to let me forget what's in front of me. Maybe the truth didn't start today. Maybe today is just the first time I noticed. The knock at the door wasn't loud, but it might as well have been a gunshot. 3 short raps, sharp enough to cut through her sobs, and the low hum of the refrigerator. I didn't move right away. My phone was still pressed to my ear, the operator telling me to go answer. I could hear the faint buzz of a radio from outside, the sound of footsteps on gravel. When I opened the door, the late afternoon light flooded in behind 2 uniformed officers and a paramedic. Their presence filled the space instantly, bringing with it that strange shift in the air, like the moment you realize the story you're in isn't private anymore, sir. "You made the call," one of the officers asked. His eyes scanned me quickly, hands visible, no injuries, before flicking past my shoulder. I stepped back to let them in. They moved with quiet efficiency, their boots soft against the hardwood. The paramedic was already pulling on gloves, snapping the latex tight against their wrists. The bowl of chicken salad was still on the table, looking somehow smaller under all the attention it was getting. The paramedic leaned in, sniffed, then glanced toward the officers. "Yeah, that's not fresh. Out." One of them took out a phone, started photographing the scene, the bowl, the utensils, even the water glass. I'd been drinking from... Every click of the shutter made the kitchen feel less like mine. She was sitting at the table still. Shoulders hunched, eyes red. She didn't look at them. Didn't look at me. Just stared at a spot on the floor like she could burn a hole through. Ma'am, can you stand up for me?" one officer said gently. She nodded, rising slowly, her hands trembling at her sides. The question started where the chicken came from, when she made it, whether she ate any herself. Her answers were short, quiet. No one raised their voice, but the weight in the room was thick enough to feel in my chest. I stood against the wall, arms crossed, watching strangers take notes in my kitchen. Watching gloved hands place the bowl into a clear evidence bag, sealing it like it was dangerous because maybe it was. When the zipper slid shut, the sour smell dulled a little, but it didn't disappear. It was still in the air, still in my head, and I knew nothing about this house was going to feel the same after today. It didn't come all at once. Confessions never do. They don't spill out in a single clean sentence. They leak piece by piece. Like water through a crack you didn't notice until it's already flooding the floor, she was sitting at the table again, hands clasped so tight her knuckles had gone white. The officers had stepped back, giving her space, but the paramedic stayed nearby, watching. The air felt heavy, like even the sunlight had thickened. At first, she just kept saying she didn't mean to hurt me. Over and over, like if she said it enough, it would turn true. I didn't think it was that bad, she said finally. Her voice so low I had to lean in to hear it. The officer asked her to explain. She looked at the evidence bag on the counter. The pale chunks of chicken now sealed behind plastic, and let out this shuddering sigh. I knew it was old, she admitted. I bought it last week, and I thought I could make it work. Add enough dressing, maybe you wouldn't notice. I stared at her. Why? My voice cracked in the middle, and I hated that it did. She looked down at her lap. Because you've been distant. You come home late, you barely eat. I thought maybe if I made something for you, we could just be together for a while. The officer's pen paused over his notebook. You knew? It was spoiled? He asked. She hesitated. Too long? Yes, she said at last. But it wasn't supposed to hurt you. I just wanted... Her voice trailed off, eyes glassy. I just wanted you to stay home tonight. There was a part of me, a very small, almost shameful part, that wanted to believe her. To think this was just a stupid, careless mistake. But the smell in the air, the knot in my gut, and the way her hands shook, told me there was more under the surface. She reached for me then, but I took a step back. Not out of anger, not even fear, just distance. Because whatever we were before, this wasn't it anymore. The officer cleared his throat, breaking the silence. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with us. Her eyes darted to mine, wide and wet, searching for something. Forgiveness, maybe, or permission to fall apart completely. But I didn't give her either. The house was quiet again, but this time, it wasn't the comfortable kind of quiet. It was hollow. After they took her, I just stood in the kitchen for a while, staring at the table like it might explain something to me if I looked long enough. The sunlight had shifted again, softer now, brushing over the wood in uneven patches. The evidence bag sat on the counter, the chicken salad sealed inside like a secret nobody wanted but everyone had to deal with. It's strange how quickly something familiar can turn into something you can't look at without feeling sick. That was just a bowl, just a meal. And now, it felt like proof. Proof that trust isn't broken in one big dramatic explosion. It's chipped away in little moments you don't even notice until the cracks meet in the middle. The rest of the house looked the same as it had that morning. Her mug still on the counter, the faint smell of her perfume clinging to the hallway, but everything felt altered. Like the edges of the world had shifted half an inch to the left, and nothing lined up anymore. Friends started texting when they heard what happened. Are you okay? Untyped and deleted. My replies more times than I can count. How do you explain something like this without sounding paranoid? Without sounding petty? Oh, my wife gave me spoiled chicken salad, so I called 911, and they took her away. It sounds ridiculous, but it's not ridiculous when you're the one sitting at the table, smelling the rot in something that was supposed to be safe. That night I didn't turn on the TV, didn't put on music. I just sat on the couch in the dim light, listening to the refrigerator hum from the kitchen. Every now and then, I'd catch a faint ghost of that smell, and it would pull me right back. I kept thinking about the way she cried, the way her voice shook when she said she just wanted me home. Part of me wanted to believe it was just a mistake, a bad judgment call. But the rest of me, the part that had been there, smelling it, feeling it, knew that, even if it was, it didn't matter. Trust doesn't survive on technicalities. I didn't go to the station, didn't call to check on her, didn't even ask what would happen next. Some endings don't come with neat explanations. They just arrive uninvited and make themselves comfortable. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen. The light was pale and thin, the kind that makes everything look a little washed out. The evidence bag was still on the counter, sealed tight. I stood there for a long time, staring at it. It looked smaller now, like the night had shrunk it somehow, but the smell. Even through the plastic, I swore I could still catch a trace of it. I picked it up once, just to feel the weight. It was lighter than I expected, not much more than a pound, if that. And yet it felt heavier than anything I'd carried in a long time. I thought about the life we'd built here. The years of shared groceries, burned dinners, lazy Sunday breakfasts. I thought about how trust had always been the invisible ingredient in all of it, and how without it, the whole thing fell apart. By mid-afternoon, I'd packed a bag. Just the essentials, clothes, phone charger, a few files from my desk. The rest could wait. I moved through the house slowly, like I was walking through someone else's home. Every room had something of her in it. Sweater draped over a chair, a pair of shoes by the door. The faintest smell of her shampoo in the bathroom. When I got to the front door, I stopped. My hand rested on the doorknob for a moment. Cold metal. Against my skin, I took one last look over my shoulder at the kitchen. Sunlight was spilling across the table again, just like it had the afternoon before. The chair was still slightly pushed back from where I'd been sitting when it all started. I stepped outside, pulled the door closed behind me. It didn't slam it. Didn't creak, it just clicked shut, quiet, final. And in that sound, I knew I wasn't coming back.